Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Kenny G Show. Another episode. I think this is like officially like number three, number four, maybe. But in this episode, I just want to talk about what's going on with the skies. So, watch the skies. We all know that, the government um, conceals information from the public, and sometimes we can't necessarily trust everything that they push in the media. Um, and I know people have been seeing the information being conveyed about the Chinese balloons and how America feels like this is an infiltration of our space and our peace. You know, I just want to say that that if you truly believe that those balloons, these foreign objects have been flying in United States airspace with no detection of the United States and them not knowing, um, I would just say you probably need to look at the history of the United States and know that we have been entangled with China for a bunch of time now. And there is no speculations to this. You just go and look at our history and the business dealings and what we are owed, far as dealing with China. So I just wanted to show a couple of videos of what's going on, um, from the media and information that they've been detailing about these uh, foreign flying objects. Um, and I just want to hear your spill on it.
40,000 feet, making it a dangerous potential threat to civilian aircraft. But now we are learning that U.S. military pilots who approached the craft have given conflicting accounts of what they saw. This new reporting coming in now from CNN national security reporter Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, so this is interesting. This is kind of unusual that these pilots saw different things, and that is sort of, I guess, adding to the mystery of all this.
Yeah, not even the pilots apparently were really able to identify what they saw. And just to take you back for a sec, on Thursday, the U.S. defense officials sent F-35 fighter jets up to try to figure out what this object was that was flying around near Alaska. Those pilots, we have learned, have given very conflicting accounts of what they actually experienced, with some pilots saying that the object interfered with the plane's sensors, other pilots saying that they didn't really experience that, other pilots saying that when they looked at the object, they could identify no identifiable propulsion system, and they did not know how it was actually staying in the air, cruising at that altitude of about 40,000 feet. So this is all added to the Pentagon's wariness of describing in more detail what this object actually is until they can get more information.
Now, one of the things that she said out the gate, right, that was very interesting to me. She said that one of the pilots said that the propelled object was interfering with the fighter jet's sensors. She said, but other jets said they didn't have that issue. So let me say this. If you're dealing with an object, right, that has the ability to cloak itself, basically, or in some way give out a magnetic field to where anything that's close enough to it, it can basically interfere with the electrical frequencies of that technological device. That is a problem, right? That's a problem in the space of, you know, if whoever put that balloon up there um gave that device that feature, doesn't it mean that that device could probably knock out some type of electrical currency in an area if it had the ability to do that to a fighter jet? So I'm gonna let the video continue to play a little bit more so you can get some more details and information. So it won't be what I'm saying, it'll be what they saying, and we'll go from there.
Right now.
And what do we know about the efforts to recover the wreckage of this second object? It looks like NORAD just put out an email a short time ago, and it sounds like they're trying to recover it.
They did, and what we were told yesterday is that the object was shot down over frozen water, so it landed on the ice, essentially. We don't know what kind of condition it's in, whether it is intact, for example, but recovery efforts have been launched, and according to the Defense Department, they have been able to recover a significant amount of debris. Now, notably, they still don't know what this object is, where it came from, or even what direction it was headed in, or what direction it came from. It is just all very murky at this point, but they do say that the FBI is going to be taking the lead on analyzing the debris. If that sounds familiar, it's because just last week we saw that another Chinese spy balloon, I should say a Chinese spy balloon because we don't know what this one actually is,
right,
was shot down, also being analyzed by the FBI. But right now there are just so many more questions than answers, Jim.
Yeah, now
they did see that one of the balloons that was shot down was a Chinese, it was a Chinese spy balloon. But this other object that they shot down has yet to be identified on what exactly it is. Let me say this. There's a lot of changes, going on in the world today with just nature, period. There's a lot of earthquakes. There's a lot of symbolism in the sky, natural extravagance happening all over the world. Which I'm going to do another video about some of those as well. But to say that y'all don't know what an object is or where it came from or even how it's even being propelled. Don't fighter jets have propellers? Don't airplanes have propellers? Don't helicopters have propellers? They're just not floating in the sky. You know what I'm saying? They're just not flying. It's not magic. It is magic to a certain degree of our understanding, but at the same time, it's like these objects are being propelled in the sky by, functions in the designs of an engineering. Yeah. So why give the American people that type of perception that one of these objects could be extraterrestrial, but we know, we know about, what I'm saying, the extraterrestrial and the U.S. Army and all of that. I forget the exact name of it, of what foul that was, but we know we've had encounters.
Bob, I mean, this is starting to sound like something out of the X-Files. I don't want to get carried away here, but what do you make of these different assessments coming in from the pilots of what they saw?
Well, Jim, the speed of those airplanes, F-35s, it's no wonder they all saw different things. And as far as intercepting communications to that vehicle, it's very difficult. I don't want to get too technical, but it could be, frequency hopping, the propulsion. There's so many questions out there that you're absolutely right, not until they actually go through the debris and see what it's made of and what it looks like in the communications. Obviously, there was some sort of propulsion system that was driving that vehicle. And don't forget, NORAD with Doppler radar is probably going back and looking at where it came from and see if they can track it back to, I don't know, China, Russia, wherever. But it's a great mystery. I'm absolutely fascinated by this.
Yeah, I mean, one U.S. official tells us there was no obvious surveillance equipment on board. Some of this is the initial information, initial reporting that comes in, and I suppose things change as they assess what they have on the ground or on the ice there. What does that tell you if that ends up being the case?
Well, there's a couple of things that I take away from this, and if it's a foreign-made object and it was sent from a place like China or Russia, it's some sort of provocation against us. I can't imagine a vehicle like this would give the Chinese or the Russians a real intelligence advantage of collecting photographs or signals or things like that. But I think what bothers NORAD and the White House is these probes. We now know there was, a total of 5 balloons, Chinese balloons that have come over the United States. Why are the Chinese doing this? Who's ordering it? And why would you do it right before Blinken, the Secretary of State, is on his way to Beijing? That makes no sense to me. With the balloon, was the Chinese military struck out on its own? So all of these questions, analysts at the CIA and the White House are looking through this and trying to piece this together. Remember, these balloons are flying over 40 places across the world, these Chinese balloons, and there are a lot of aerial vehicles I've been involved in before we've never been able to identify from radar. One we saw, I remember I was involved in, was going Mach 6, which made no sense at all to anybody. And eventually it was just shelved and we couldn't figure it out.
Wow. And I guess, the question that you're leading me to with the comments on China is that we have one of two situations, I suppose. One is they're just trying to provoke the U.S. to see what the response might be. The other would be that Xi and the military might not be on the same page, that the folks who want to try to conduct diplomacy with the United States are not on the same page as the military. Could that be it?
Exactly. The People's Liberation Army is very difficult to understand. And would they act in non-accordance with Xi? We don't know. I mean, is China close to some sort of military takeover with all these COVID protocols that close down the economy? These are very hard questions to answer. And for American intelligence, getting inside these circles is nearly impossible. It's always been impossible. But it's certainly something the analysts are picking through right now.
He just kind of like summarized everything I was saying in a tight little bow, so it's like, yeah. So how long, how long does the American people have to be serenaded with this game that extraterrestrial or the fact that that we are in cahoots with people and doing things that necessarily don't serve the people or the people don't have any knowing of, so these are our leaders, this is what they do. My thing is, look how long it took them to shoot it down, and this has to go back to the hand of, the person in charge of the military. At any time, you know, the president can send the military that has the power to send the military to war if he initiated that power. Now he can be, you know, overruled or overthrown. I don't know if it's by I don't know exactly the procedure behind it, but he can be overruled and overthrown. But he has the power to initiate that, and for that object to be flying over South Carolina or North Carolina like that, and people are in fear of it, um, and him not initiating an attack on that object was kind of careless, a little bit, I say, on the part. Or it may have been, you know, just something that he may have agreed to, allegedly, you know. So I want to show this other video. This is a video that I feel like it basically like it says that China did kind of know about the one balloon and was surprised that it was shot down. And that kind of speaks to what I just said about maybe the government knew about the balloon and just didn't think people would see it, or China would have it so openly available to the eyesight of the American people with the little advanced technology that we do have. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm going to show this next video um, to basically confirm what I'm saying about China kind of, you know, feeling like, yeah, you had no right to shoot that balloon down. It was no threat. That balloon could have had anything in it, anything on it, you know, had the ability to do a lot of things as far as China, because, you know, their technology is a little bit more advanced than ours over here. I would think, since we do so much business with them and we get a lot of objects, a lot of technology from them. So let's check this video out and let's see what you think about this.
United States has shot down a giant Chinese balloon that is suspected of spying on key military sites across America. According to officials, the balloon was downed by Air Force fighter aircrafts off the Carolina coast. U.S. President Joe Biden had issued an order on Wednesday to take down the balloon, but the Pentagon had recommended to wait and carry out the operation until the balloon was safely over water.
ABC 15? Yes, ma'am.
They successfully took it down, and I want to compliment our aviators who did it, and we'll have more to report on this a little later.
The balloon had spent 5 days traveling in a diagonal southeast route from Idaho to the Carolinas. It had moved off the coast by midday Saturday and was shot down within moments of its arrival over the Atlantic Ocean. Multiple fighter and refueling aircrafts were involved in the mission. The balloon was shot down about 6 nautical miles off the U.S. east coast. Now, according to the Pentagon, the U.S. military is now trying to recover the debris, which is spread over 7 miles. The debris landed in 47 feet of water, which is shallower than what the experts had expected. The shoot down came shortly after the U.S. government ordered a halt to flights in and out of 3 South Carolina airports.
All of a sudden, like, I'm there, I'm watching the planes circling it. I mean, you've seen all air traffic just die. It's like I'm sitting out there, I'm watching it right here in Surfside Beach, and I'm watching it. And as I do, I'm like, okay, all the regular traffic stopped. My wife calls me. She says that the airport shut down. They're not doing any flights no more. And so the next time I go outside, I'm like, well, the other planes are still going to be flying. No, those planes are all stopped flying, and now you just got the jets just circling.
The balloon has set off a diplomatic crisis, with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken calling off this weekend's trip to China. Beijing, meanwhile, has expressed strong dissatisfaction over Washington shooting down the balloon. It has accused the United States of overreacting and violating international practice. In a statement, Beijing's foreign ministry said, and I'm quoting here, China expresses strong dissatisfaction and protests against the use of force by the United States to attack unmanned civilian airship, further saying that it would reserve the right to make further necessary responses.
Now, when you see that response from China, right, it doesn't sound like, first of all, it doesn't sound like they're denying that that balloon was theirs, right? But there is some confusion on why it was shot down, because it's almost like they're saying, like, you know, we made this deal that this balloon would be here. Yeah, Biden, we had an agreement, you know, and it says it says China will reserve the right to make further necessary responses. I don't know if that's a comment to, like, say, yeah, you did something to me. You done something to me, and I reserve the right to retaliate in a manner that I believe is justifiable. That's what that sounds like to me, you know. But, you know, say United States didn't know the balloon was up there, right? Just say they didn't know, right? Okay. Now that they didn't know, and the balloon was up there, so they had every right to shoot it down. I mean, that would be the response, you know, take it down. But say that they did know that that balloon was up there, and they shot it down. Just like China said, it was an unmanned civilian airship. It was a ship. It was harmless. We put it there, you know. This is part of international practices. This is what they're saying. So if anytime you hear the word international practices, that means this is something that globally what we do to gain information, or, you know, routinely, how we routinely check on other countries or other continents, you know, and it's all with all knowing. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like China and United States had an agreement on this, and for some reason that, you know, United States didn't want to keep that agreement. I don't know why. Maybe it got something to do with Russia and Ukraine. You never know. 'Cause I don't see China aiding to Ukraine, right? I don't see China aided to Ukraine, right? So I'm gonna let this video further play.
Colonel David B. Desroches is a professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies and is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Colonel David, great to see you. Why was the United States initially hesitating to shoot down the spy balloon, if at all it was being considered a threat?
Well, the main reason is because at that altitude, you know, what goes up must come down. So anything you shot at it, first off, if you missed, that would come down. Basically, the debris would have the possibility of covering as much as 400 square miles. So there's just too much populated area. So they waited until it was over water and then shot it down.
This balloon was so large that it had the ability to cover 400 square miles if shot down over maybe a state, that they had to wait till it got over water to shoot it down. This balloon is pretty large. And we had no idea it was there. Yeah.
Colonel David, China claims that the United States overreacted and violated international practice. What do you make of China's reaction?
Yeah, it's a little strange. I think that it's quite possible that if this had not been visible in Montana, it might have been allowed to pass through. But once the balloon was spotted by civilians and people knew what it was, there was a huge political impetus for President Biden to take some robust action. That being said, it's a clear violation of American sovereignty. It is clearly within our rights to bring it down in any way we can. It's important to note that this is a unmanned aircraft, not a manned aircraft. So I think China's...
Listen to what people say. And you see that he works out of Washington, D.C. Listen to what people say, because sometimes if you listen good enough, they will tell you what they mean. They sprinkle in a little truth with every joke. They sprinkle in a little truth with every lie. It's not a lie until it gets to 1 million people, but that halfway mark of probably about 500,000 people, you know what I'm saying? It got a lot of truth in it, It may have been allowed if it got to a certain area. Come on, bro.
That being said, it's a clear violation of American sovereignty. It is clearly within our rights to bring it down in any way we can. It's important to note that this is a unmanned aircraft, not a manned aircraft. So I think China's indignation may reflect their unpleasantness at possibly having one of their security assets compromised.
David, despite China insisting that it was not a spy vessel, that is the balloon, and that it was an airship, what do you think this balloon was really doing over U.S. airspace, especially before diplomats from both countries met?
Yeah, well, if it had been a balloon that just lost control, you would expect the Chinese to notify us of that. They did not. So I think that bolsters the hypothesis that it was a surveillance airship. So what it was probably doing was, first off, collecting imagery. You can get imagery from a satellite, but imagery, closer is better. And the satellites at far north orbits, have to fly in an elliptical orbit around the world. They only get a few seconds over each spot in the northern hemisphere. So having a balloon just almost in place, moving only at the speed of the wind, allows you for better imagery. They could also collect electric intelligence, so messages, telecommunications, information on that. And then finally, they would probably be able to collect emissions intelligence by seeing, for example, what kind of radars were used to ascertain where the balloon is. So there's a wide range of intelligence that can be gotten, as well as just figuring out how the United States and Canada react to an intrusion in their airspace.
So in your own assessment, do you think that China was caught pants down spying?
Well, when we raise the thing, we'll find out. But right now, it certainly does look suspicious. I would not want to be the officer in the Chinese military who dispatched this, if that in fact is what happened.
Finally, Colonel David, what is the severity of this minute balloon issue in terms of relations between the United States and China?
Well, it's not a minute issue. I mean, it is a directed overflight of the United States, which I think the Chinese were planning on the fact that it was at such a high altitude that it might not have been noticed or, would have been difficult to intercept. It's another grievance. It's another unfair practice, I think, in the American definition. It's something that I think will be yet another irritant in a relationship that is extremely strained. And I think most Americans, if it does prove to be a spy aircraft, will view that as yet further evidence of China's bad faith and their determination to really become a disruptive military power.
I know I said finally, but Colonel David, do you think Blinken should continue with his tour of China?
I think politically it was impossible for him to do that. The Biden administration opponents are already developing a narrative that says Biden is soft on China. They're pointing to his son's business interests with China, with Biden's standing by a Democratic congressman, Eric Swalwell, who had a girlfriend who turned out to be a Chinese spy. So to downplay this would basically be yet another gift to Biden's domestic political opponents. I think they had to take vigorous action, both the shoot down and the visit cancellation.
All right, so I've been talking to a professor at Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, live from Washington, D.C. Colonel David, thank you for talking to WION today.
It's an honor.
The things you can get away with if you with the right group, the things that you can get away with, good Lord. Sometimes, it's better to be compromised versus being sold out. If we get infiltrated, or let's say our defenses fall because we under-evaluated the attack or just was blindsided, right? But when you get stabbed in the back, that's worse. That girlfriend that you see, that you had and y'all broke up with, and a month later you see her with one of your guy friends. Yeah, you know that. Oh, that ain't never happened to me, but I've heard stories. I've seen stories of guys that dealt with that. She ended up dropping him, or he dropped her, and then next thing you know, she's up with his friend. So that's the kind of metaphorically what's going on with the United States and China, and the stuff that you can do and get away with when you align yourself with the right group is very sickening, right? Very sickening. But yeah, watch the skies, man. It's a lot of things going on in the skies today. I think people are paying attention, waking up, and are very acknowledging on the point of that maybe the people that you think been for us haven't been for us, and it's time to create an independency away from the systems that we have been indoctrinated with for so long. So this is my segment. Watch the skies. Peace to the gods. I'm out.